Welcome, everybody, to WagerTalk Today. We have a great show lined up with absolutely tons of sports betting information for you all. But before we get into that, I have something important to say. Very rarely do we meet a legend in life, and me and the entire WagerTalk team were lucky enough to have one in our work family for many, many years. When I first met Dave Koken, he didn't like me. And I knew immediately, right then and there, that we would get along great. Dave lived one of the most colorful lives out of anyone I've ever come in contact with. He was warm and kind and very, very funny in a dry, witty, dark way. He was also incredibly intelligent and worldly and could hold his own on any topic. Dave took unbelievable pride in what he did for a living. Wow. And was truly one of the greatest. Dave was one of the pioneers in the sports handicapping industry, and he saw it through so many changes. When Dave started in this industry, it was a tough work environment. There were so many scammers and 900 numbers, and the reputation of all handicappers were terrible. Yet he persevered through it all and held his head high, and really never did wrong by anyone. Dave helped this industry change and change for the better. There is not one person in this industry that doesn't know or owe Dave a debt of gratitude. He and a select few others are the shoulders we all stand on. He was a funny guy with a funny hat that we all woke up at 7 a.m. every Saturday to watch on USA Today for 20 years. He was the old man with the eye patch that we couldn't get enough of. It wasn't him or us that started calling him the GOAT. It was the listeners, the viewers, and the clients that did. Dave passed away last night at 3:58 in the morning, and in true Koken fashion, he had under 4 a.m. at plus 170. He sits on the Mount Rushmore of our industry, a place that only a few ever make. Dave, it's hard to find words, but we all loved you, and we're honored that you spent your last decade with us. You taught us so much. You had an opinion on everything. You made us laugh with all your incredible stories. We will miss you, but your name will never be forgotten. This industry owes you a lot and loves you. Thank you for everything, my friend. Rest in peace, Dave Koken. Let's take a moment of silence to remember the GOAT, Dave Koken. Wow. I didn't think I was going to get so emotional. And it really demonstrates what an impact and an important person Dave was to me and all of us. Whew. So let's move on. Ralph Michaels joining us today. He's going to look at two college bets, both in week one. He's going to take apart the Oklahoma game. They're playing Temple, and the TCU Stanford game. Ralph, we've got Jesse after that, and then we've got Pavlos to discuss some some basketball betting in the Olympics. But man, I did not think I would get so emotional. Tough morning. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, it's been a tough couple of weeks, and Prez well said. The one thing I want to share about Dave, and you brought it up, was his knowledge. You know, when I moved to Vegas and joined Wager Talk, I started appearing on ESPN Las Vegas with Dave 2 or 3 times a week. Dave, of course, had a show, and that's how Dave and I became friends. And I would prep for shows and write notes and bring my laptop and have several pages of notes. If you ever listen to Dave on the radio, it doesn't matter what subject, what sport, what player, what stat, Dave pulled those numbers out of his head without ever writing down a note for any radio show I ever did. He truly was the GOAT, a great friend, and someone that will be missed by many, many people.
That is true. Well, we got to move on, Ralph. And Dave would want it no other way. Tweeting right to the bitter end. Sports betting was his passion. College football was his specialty. So, with that said, we'll dedicate the show to him and get into some college football. Minus 42, Ralph, Oklahoma against Temple. And if a memory serves, I think you came on or somebody did and gave out Arizona at minus 40. So here we have another massive line. How should we attack this game?
Well, just so you guys know, I am actually wearing my Gold Sheet cap for today. Gold Sheet is the $2 handicapper. They have a 2-for-1 with an NFL and baseball play. But this is a play from the Gold Sheet that they already have loaded. And it is game number 147, it is minus the points with Oklahoma. Let me catch my right thoughts there as I was looking ahead one game. In Temple, we have one of the worst teams in the FBS. The Gold Sheet power ratings go from 0 to 55, and Temple currently sits at 50, one of the worst teams. Last year, they went into the season with a 3-9 record the previous year, and they had 13 returning starters. Not bad, but guess what? With those 13 returning starters, they actually went worse. They went 3-9, and they were minus 70 yards per game. This year, 5 returning starters, 2 returning starters on defense, and they are missing 9 of their top 10 tacklers. With Oklahoma, you have a team that needs to make some waves. They've got a very difficult schedule this year in their first season as an SEC opponent. Look at the last 2 years under Venables. They were a 31 and 36 point favorite in the season opener each of the last 2 years. They covered both of them, and last year they won 73-0 against Arkansas State, a team that is much better than Temple. Oklahoma comes back very well stocked with the exception of one position. They lost all 5 offensive line starters. Now, normally that is a situation where we wouldn't be playing on a huge favorite. They brought in 6 transfer players that have over 120 career starts. That's 6 players with at least 20 starts. So we clearly feel Venables will get the O-line ready to go. And against this overmatched foe in week 1, they will handle it. Prez, one of those stats that you talked about, I did a little tweak to it, which makes it even more impressive. We talked about how when you're a big favorite against FCS teams, you haven't performed as well. You've been right around 50%. But if you're a big favorite against an FBS opponent like Temple is, going back to 2016, when you're a favorite of 30 points or more, you have actually covered 67%. Then when I looked at games as a favorite of 37 or more, how is this, Prez? Going back to 2013, if a team is a favorite against an FBS opponent of minus 37 or more points, they have gone 17-1 against the spread, 95%.
Ralph Michaels joining us, everyone, representing the Gold Sheet. And man, if you guys have never bought a Gold Sheet before, very inexpensive, absolutely spectacular information provided. Ralph, is the college football guide and whatnot ready to go? Where are we at with the Gold Sheet right now?
It is, Prez. I'll tell you what, we already have a record number of downloads for the Gold Sheet guide. We're going to show you a few things after we talk about the next game that are in it, but it is absolutely a must load. It is free. You just go to wt.buzz/GS for the Gold Sheet, or go to WagerTalk.com, go to the Gold Sheet. You will be glad you did. It's certainly the way to start your college football season.
That is for sure. Ralph Michaels joining us, everybody, on a sad day. Dave Koken left us today. Ralph, TCU and Stanford playing each other. The over and under here is 61. I know you like the over. Tell us why. And also, I'm going to keep the follow. I'm not going to do a lot of follow-up questions. I'm going to kind of do them at the beginning. Should we be looking at betting unders in the first week of college football? Or is this one of those rare sports where more games might go over than not?
Prez, it's not a wild number, or I have found no pattern for betting high totals or low totals early in the year. But I have never bet a total this early in July. But I've been going through the Gold Sheet top 25s. If you go to WagerTalk.com, you'll see we have a top 25 preview for each team. And then I have done a video for the Gold Sheet, a 12 to 15 minute video breaking down each of those teams, returning starters, all of their preseason odds, what their schedule looks like with expected lines. It has helped me so much. So when I was looking at the TCU game, we have a TCU team that is coached by Dykes. Dykes wants to push the pace, and Dykes is very happy to throw the ball around. Last year, TCU starting quarterback was injured, and they had to bring in a young quarterback, a redshirt freshman, Josh Hoover. Well, Dykes doesn't matter who his quarterback is. Hoover was a redshirt freshman, started the last 6 or 7 games, and he had 3 games where he completed 50 attempts. He's going to up that passing. When you look at pace of play, last year, TCU was number 2 in plays per game. They may be the most up-tempo team this year. Dykes went 11-4 over-under against non-conference foes. And going back further, his teams are 20-6 over-under, 77% to the under against non-conference opponents. And in season openers, Dykes has had his team ready. He's averaged 42.1 points per game. And the opening game for TCU, both teams combined, have averaged 73.2 plays per game. Now, if you look at Stanford, you would say, who in the world would bet Stanford over the total? But guys, They have Troy Taylor there now as the second-year coach. Taylor was the head coach at Sacramento State. When he was at Sacramento State, his teams were number 3 in offense and number 5 in offense the previous 2 years. He will clearly ramp up the Stanford plays per game to show you how much. The 2 years prior to Taylor taking over as head coach, Stanford only averaged 58 plays per game. Last year in Taylor's first season, they averaged 70 plays per game. And in the second year of schemes, the players now learning how to play fast. I expect that to expand incredibly. 2 very fast up-tempo teams, 2 coaches that are offensive-minded first. There are some 60.5, some 61, some 61.5, and a 62. So yes, you want to bet these totals early. You have the ability to shop and get lines, because I think when Stanford goes through their summer camp, I think many people are going to realize how they are changing the offense and how fast they'll be playing this year.
Incredible information from Ralph Michaels representing the Gold Sheet. Ralph likes Oklahoma minus 42 and the over 61 in the TCU Stanford game. Don't sleep on either of those bets. Ralph, let's take a look at some examples of the Gold Sheet, and you have power ratings for us on the SEC teams.
Well, I'm going to just show you 3 pages from the Gold Sheet College Football Guide. Again, free right now. Head to WagerTalk.com, go to the Gold Sheet page. You'll see the downloads, or you can see one of the team previews that has it. First, this is loaded. There's over 60 pages of free content. Power ratings. Who doesn't need a good set of power ratings to go into the season? You'll see that we have power ratings listed by team alphabetically, by ranking from 1 to 334, or by the conference. There you see it. Not only are you getting the power ratings, guys, but you are getting the strength of schedule based on their schedule. You are getting what their average line is, and you are going at what their computer-generated wins will be for the season. All of that just on one page. Secondly, For the conferences, when you're looking to compare teams and how they've done, we have a conference cheat sheet for you for each conference. The example here is the SEC cheat sheet. We have power ratings for every team, returning starters on offense and defense, returning production as far as the Connolly numbers from ESPN are concerned. Is the quarterback returning? What new coaches are part of the head coach, OC, and DC, plus their recruiting ranks ranked nationally and by conference. We have that as well for all Power 5 teams. And then lastly, and most important, with the power ratings that we have a projected line for each game for each team. I'm going to show you an example here of Alabama. For all the power group teams, we have their returning starters, we have their coaching information, we have all their ranks, and take a look. You are getting a schedule for every team with a projected line, with a projected win percentage, with the team's power rating and opponent power ratings. Guys, it's a must-have. Again, already a record number of people have downloaded. It is a must-read, the Gold Sheet 2024 College Football Summer Guide.
Ralph Michaels, everybody. And guys, the Gold Sheet is the oldest sports betting publication in North America. It was founded in the 1950s, and it's never been better. We bought the company 6-7 years ago, and I really, really recommend taking a look at their information, especially the stuff on college football and NFL. Ralph, one of our listeners, Chuck Pod, and he's here every day. Really appreciate that, Chuck. He wants to know if there's any relevant stats on betting on or against a pitcher on his next outing after a no-hitter. Now, if you have the time to take a look at that, I'm happy to bring you back on after Jesse to go through it. But I do know you're busy. So how do you want to approach that? Because it is an exceptional question.
You know, I get asked every time there's a no-hitter, so I will go through, I will find the query, I will post it in Slack for you, Prez, so you can share with them. But,
perfect.
You know, again, we're talking 1 or 2 a year, so the sample size isn't great. So do be careful. You know, while you think, while you think this is the number of pitchers, what they do in the next situation, each situation is unique. So I will post that in Slack in a minute, and you'll be able to share that with everyone.
Thanks, Ralph Michaels, everybody. What do you got to promote, Ralph?
Well, again, it's a Gold Sheet day, guys. Gold Sheet is the $2 handicapper. They're giving you their first best bet. This year, they've released 0 baseball plays rated 4% or 5%. They got one today, plus a bonus NFL game number 1. And by the way, guys, the NFL season kicks off in 59 hours. Make sure you check out my NFL preseason guide. You can head to my homepage for that, wt.buzz/RM. Gold Sheet College Football Guide, a must read. My preseason guide, an absolute must read. Thank you for taking the time for viewing both.
Ralph Michaels, everybody, thegoldsheet.com. Guys, if you like what you're hearing, do us a favor and take a minute out of your day and hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. We have an incredible amount of sports betting information. We have solo videos on many of the games that go on today or any day. And we also have a lot of live shows, including First Pitch currently and WagerTalk Today. David Talk finally gets to watch this show live. Dave, we enjoy having you. Thank you. And as for all of you guys, Lifted Clothing and Andrew and B Daddy and everybody with all their thoughts and words, Johnny Detroit, Steve Merrill, John Frantantoni, really appreciate the kind words about Dave, and some of his loved ones did watch and are watching, and really appreciate it. We all feel it today. So we shall move on. We've got a CFL bet for you guys, another college football bet for you guys. And Pavlov is joining us at the end of the show, and he is unbelievable. One of the top handicappers all around at the website, and he's got a bet for you guys on a basketball game that goes today and one tomorrow in the Olympics. Jesse Schule joining us. I didn't think I was going to get emotional. Nice tribute with the hat.
Well, thank you. You did a great job, Lawrence. I was really impressed with the things you said, and the way that you put all that together was very, very well done.
Thank you, Jesse. And I know you never got a chance to meet Dave, but obviously, like so many people who haven't met him, and even the young guys that are coming up in this industry, like Hakeem and Ronald and Andrew McGinnis, everybody knows who he is. And that's so rare for everyone to know who you are. Truly unbelievable. Let's get into some CFL betting. And well, the BC Lions are playing Winnipeg, and it looks like the BC Lions might be walking into an interesting quarterback situation. They have a quarterback currently that could end up being the best in the league when all is said and done, and Nathan Rourke, who can't seem to stick on an NFL team who wants back in. All of that's irrelevant for Thursday's game, however, although maybe the quarterback currently is looking over his head and will play lights out. BC is -3.5. They're playing Winnipeg. How do we bet this game?
Yeah, I don't think Nathan Rourke's going to get a chance to play unless Vernon Adams Jr. Gets hurt, because he did lead the CFL in passing last year. He's leading the CFL in passing this year. The BC Lions have the best record in the CFL. They have the league's #1 offense. And he's playing behind an offensive line that actually, by PFF ranking, ranks worst in the CFL, whereas Winnipeg is just slightly better at 8th in the CFL. Unfortunately for Winnipeg, their quarterback isn't handling it as well. The pressures are getting to Zach Collaros, who had a CFL best 33 touchdown passes last year. So far this year, during a 2-6 start, 3 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Winnipeg is a team that has had 7 straight double-digit win seasons. They've won 2 great Grey Cups in that span, and they've been to 4 straight Grey Cups, but the dynasty appears to be over, and now they're in a really tough spot. They are playing at home, but the BC Lions are coming off of a bye, coming off of a loss going into the bye, and BC, like I said, this is the #1 ranked offense in the CFL. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, last place offensively. They're averaging just 20 points per game. I like BC. I think this line is short. This is just a mismatch, in my opinion.
You know, Jesse, listen, I can't argue with anything that you've said, and it makes complete logical sense. I mean, here we have a 5-2 BC team with the top offense in the league playing a 2-6 Winnipeg team who truly can't get out of their own way. With that said, aren't those the times where the shitty team wins outright? I mean, we've just seen this story play out over and over and over again. Now, I counter that with British Columbia's coming off of a loss, and I think that's really the key from my perspective to this handicap. But I'm worried, man. I'm worried because it's too obvious.
I'd say, Prez, it's not just coming off a loss, but also the bye is going to help as well. So the loss combined with the bye and the fact that, like I said, this is a team that's a dynasty. This is a team that everybody wants to bet on to do exactly what you said, and everybody's been waiting for that to happen from this team. And I'm not going to be the guy betting every week on Winnipeg to turn things around. It looks to me like that time has passed. I don't think this is a playoff team this year with this quarterback playing behind this offensive line.
Yeah, and as Steve Merrill says, don't catch a falling knife. Although I tried it on air like a year ago, literally on air, and I was able to fully catch the thing. It wasn't very hard. Jesse, let's turn our attention to college football. Man, it wasn't 500 years ago that the Nebraska Cornhuskers were a team to reckon with. Those days are long behind us. but you like them this year to go over their 7.5 regular season wins. Tell us why.
Before we get into that, Prez, I just want to retort to Steve Merrill's comment about not trying to catch a falling knife. I'd like Steve Merrill to know that pain heals, chicks dig scars, and glory lasts forever. That's another one that the new generation needs to learn, in my opinion.
Okay. Now let's talk about Nebraska.
Okay. 7.5 wins. Their win total set at 7.5. This is a team that was 5-7 last year, but they lost 5 games by a field goal or in overtime. Their quarterback room really struggled. Jeff Sims, Harburg, and Chuba Purdy combined 52% passing completions for just 100 yards per game, 10 touchdowns, and 16 picks on the season. This team was minus 17 in turnover margin. And the numbers tell us that when you see a team that is dramatically bad or good at turnover margin, that corrects itself the following year. And as evidenced of such, in 2022, USC had the best turnover margin in college football. And last year, they corrected that. They went from first to 72nd in turnover margin. And the results were pretty obvious in their win-loss record. I like Matt Rule with this team. The biggest difference, obviously, is the quarterback position. That's what held them back last year. They get a 5-star recruit in Dylan Raiola, a guy that has never played in college football, so it's difficult to know what to expect. And I can't claim to know everything about Dylan Raiola, but what I do know is the Georgia Bulldogs wanted him, the Ohio State Buckeyes wanted him, and that must mean he's pretty damn good. I would say that, in my opinion, his floor is higher than the ceiling of the quarterbacks they had last year. You look at the schedule, there's only really one game on their schedule that you don't think they can win, and then that's at Ohio State. I think they're going to be a favorite in their first 7 games. Whether or not they win all 7 of those games, then they head to Ohio State. You got to pencil them in for a loss there. And the next 2 toughest games on their schedule are at USC and at Iowa. I think they'll get at least a win out of those 2 games. So I have this team winning 8 or 9 games. So I'm going to go over the 7.5 win total.
Jesse Schule, everybody. And Jesse, we're lucky to have you over at WagerTalk. Excellent handicapper all around. What do you have to promote?
Yeah, I enjoyed Ralph's analysis on the college football games, and I've also done single game videos for both those 2 games that Ralph talked about, and it sounds like we're thinking along the same lines. I would encourage everybody to check out WagerTalk TV, check out my single game videos for college football. We do have a special up, $249, all my football, college, NFL, and NFL preseason for $249 running through the end of September. And I've gotten off to really hot starts with college football the last 2 years, 41-12, 77% in August and September. And the reason for that, and the reason why I focus on that time period, is because the bookmakers usually don't have the lines dialed in the first month of the season. As the season progresses, they tighten up those lines and it becomes more difficult to find value. That's why I promote the first month of the season like that.
Wonderful stuff. Jesse Schule, everyone. You can find him at wagertalk.com. So before we bring in Pavlos, let's answer Ralph's question, and then I have a bet to give out for all of you guys. Call it my big game breakdown. So one of our listeners asked, what do you do after a pitcher pitches a no-hitter? How do you bet? Do you bet on that pitcher, against that pitcher, over and under? Well, here's what I can tell you. Since 2020, the average start for a pitcher making his first start after a no-hitter, 4 2/3 innings. So he didn't make it to 5. 5.9 hits allowed, a 3.3 earned run average, 1 home run allowed, a 6.32 ERA, and a 1.63 whip. That sounds to me like betting against a pitcher who just pitched a no-hitter is the right way to attack it. and perhaps betting the over in the first 5. But those are the stats. Do with them what you will. Now, in regards to a bet, look, 2 weeks ago, I told you guys to bet Noah Lyles to win the 100-meter race at plus 175. This line has now dropped to plus 150. And I'm telling you that it is still a really, really good bet. Last year, Noah Lyles, he's known as a 200-meter runner. And behind Usain Bolt, probably the greatest 200-meter runner of all time. Usain, him, Michael Johnson. But he decided to tackle the 100 last year, 2023, and he ended up winning the World Championship. And he was really struggling with his starts. And now he's had a full year to fix that. And he's the current reigning world champ. And you're getting a ton of plus money on him. Plus 150 for Noah Lyles to win the 100 meters. I've bet that play. I bet it at plus 175 2 weeks ago. And I suggest you bet it now. And I'm good if you bet that play all the way to plus money, even money. I think we have a generational sprinter in his prime with a chip on his shoulder looking to make the double-double in a historic way. Noah Lyles plus 150 to win the 100-meter race. In keeping with the Olympics, there's only one guy at WagerTalk that wears a Speedo. Ladies and gentlemen, Pavlos, how are you, my friend? It's been a long time.
I'm fine, but after the news about Dave, I'd never met Dave, but I always respected him and the way that he showed like he's the authority. I don't really sure how to say this with words, but I feel sad for a guy that I never met, but he's a guy that we worked with, and it's always sad, but I'll try to give you guys a couple of winners. It's in the Olympics. It's in basketball. I don't really do a lot of basketball, but I just look for value wherever I can find it. And there's a game between Brazil and Germany, 3 p.m. Eastern in the Olympics. I like a player prop here. It's Marcelinho Huertas over 5.5 assists. It's a little bit juiced up at minus 145. Now, he's 41 years old. He's pretty old for a basketball player, but he still has some gas left in the tank. He also played a couple of seasons back in the NBA for the Lakers. If you remember, he's the main ball handler for Brazil. So he dished out 5 assists in a bad loss to France, but he had 7 or more assists in 3 of the 4 qualifiers. And last season in the Spanish league, he averaged 6.3 assists with Tenerife. And actually, he did so in the last 5 seasons with Tenerife. He averaged well over 5.5 assists. So I expect him to go over 5.5 assists here in this match. It's going to be easier for Brazil because in the last match they played against France, and France are just out of this world in terms of talent, in terms of bodies. I mean, they got Rudy Gobert, and he's not even the tallest guy in that roster. Of course, they got Wembanyama. They got a whole lot of players who have. They even have their guards. They have a 6'3" guard, Frank Ntilikina. He also plays in the NBA, or he used to play in the NBA, but he has a wingspan of 7.1 feet. So that's really hard for when you have a guy guarding you with legs and arms like tentacles or whatever. I think it was really hard for Brazil to play because Bruno Caboclo, another guy from Brazil, he had a horrible game. 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists. He did have 4 steals and a block, but he was, for example, he's one of Brazil's main scorers, and he was held scoreless in that match to France, which goes to show that they don't really allow a lot of action in the paint because, again, they have a lot of long players who can make it really hard for you to score in the paint. Now, I think this match against Germany is going to be slightly easier, at least for Huertas to give out some assists, because he's probably going to be guarded by Schroeder. Schroeder is not a very good defender. So I think Huertas to get at least 6 assists is a very realistic scenario. Again, this is juiced up, minus 145. I think it's both DraftKings and FanDuel have minus 145. So I think 6 assists is something really, really realistic to ask from Huertas in a match where Brazil have to win. So I think we're going to see a nice little game from Marcelinho Huertas. Give me the over 5.5 assists at minus 145.
Pavlos, outside of looking cool as hell, and I mean, look, I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody else. From my perspective, you are the coolest looking dude at WagerTalk by far. I don't want to see you in a Speedo, but I'm sure the ladies do. You don't get a chance to come on the show often. You live in a time zone that creates tiredness at this time of the day. But I do want to talk about who you are for the clients, because, guys, there are very few people better at sports betting than this man. And last year, he absolutely dominated the sport, all the sports he bets. Same with the year before. He is permanently up money. In the last 7 days, he's made tons of money for his clients. He's number one at WagerTalk in the last 30 days. And although I don't have it here in front of me, I do believe he's number one at WagerTalk the last 365 days as well. Pavlos, tell us what sports you bet and why clients need to pay attention to you.
That's actually funny because I'm here talking about basketball, but the only sport that I'm doing is soccer. I don't release any client plays in any other sports. I do soccer exclusively, of course. If I find something that's really, I might do a couple of NBA player props here and there, but mostly it's soccer. It's futures, 5% releases, some props. But I usually do, a lot of side bets and totals. Nothing really. I tried doing, props, but I toned it down. I just usually release plays that are widely available, like Asian spreads, Asian totals, maybe a couple of same game parlays where I pick both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. Nothing too fancy, stuff that are widely available because I want everybody out there to get paid. And so I've been doing a really good job in just soccer alone. Number one in last 30 days with plus 45 units. I'm coming off a really nice last couple of months with the Euros and the Copa America. I think we made plus 55 units in the two competitions combined. You won't see a lot of other sports from me. I mostly do soccer. I do have a couple of plays loaded. We will talk about them maybe after my next breakdown, which is also a basketball play. The Olympics, I watch them because Greece is there. We lost to Spain about 5 hours ago. We still have chances to qualify if we beat Australia in the final match, but I'm kind of gutted about our national team this time around. But there's a lot of action, a lot of nice storylines to follow in these Olympics. One of them I'm going to talk about in our next segment. It's a team that played USA a couple of days ago, actually 10 days ago, and almost won. And nobody expected that. And USA were minus, Sudan. I think, they were minus 43.5 favorites, this USA side, and they almost lost. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, listen, the United States are having a tough go in soccer right now for their men's team, both at the Olympics and at the higher levels of the World Cup, etc., etc. I just want to correct myself. Pavlos was number 7 most profitable handicapper the last 365 days. He made his clients 85 units of profit, which is unbelievable. And the fact that you made 85 units of profits in the last 365 days, and there were 6 handicappers that were better than you in that time period, what a testament to Johnny Detroit and the Detroit office scouring around the internet, studying social media, and really putting together the best handicapping team ever assembled. With that said, no one has a better beard than you. So you're number one for beards. Let's get into your Wednesday game. So you want to talk about USA and South Sudan. Shocking that South Sudan was able to pull an upset, and one that their country, even in an exhibition game, is going to celebrate for a long, long time. Can they do it again?
No. First of all, the spread in that friendly was 43.5 points, which they smashed. Now the books are much more careful. I think the spread now is at 29.5, which is still huge if you ask me, because USA they didn't win any of the last 6 matches. Why their last 6? Because it's 5 friendlies and the first match against Serbia. They didn't win any of those by 30 points or more, and they only covered whatever spread was given in any given match. They only covered the spread in 3 of those, which was 2 of them were against Serbia and 1 of them was against Canada. So that tells me that they go above and beyond to cover the spread and have good performances against teams that have fellow NBAers. Serbia, of course, they have Jokic and a couple of other players, so they really wanted to put the Europeans, in their place. Same goes with Canada, because USA and Canada are like, could easily be USA's B team in the sense that they all play in the NBA. They're all very good players. So I think whenever they find a team that doesn't have a lot of NBAers, they get complacent. They get maybe a little bit cocky. I remember it was maybe Paul Pierce who said, "Oh, South Sudan, they don't have a player who's over 6'3", and they do have." So that displays just a little bit of cockiness and a little bit of carelessness in terms of who you have against you and how do you treat them. So I'm always in for an underdog coming into a big competition and just doing something. And South Sudan, they did that. They almost beat USA in a friendly.
Yeah.
And it's really, I'm not really sure how USA will react after this one. Are they going to want a revenge game and put them in their place and show the world that, hey, listen, we might have won by just 1 point and barely in the friendlies, but then we beat them by 50 points in the group stage. So don't worry. I'm not so sure. But the 30-point spread is just a bit too high for me.
Yes.
Just a lean on South Sudan plus 29.5 points, but that's not where I'm going here. I'm gonna go with a player prop. But before my player prop, I just want to say that there's a lot of nice storylines about this South Sudan team. A lot of their players didn't even have shoes in the trainings. There's a former NBA player, Lol Deng, who is putting money out of his own pocket to grow the game in his country. And South Sudan, they did beat Puerto Rico in the opener of the Olympics, 90-79, a really nice performance. And this was actually a revenge game because Puerto Rico, they beat them in the World Cup last year. So South Sudan were really eager to beat this team because they were, I think, back in that match, they were 10 or 12 points up and they really messed it up in the overtime. So it was a revenge game. And another funny, kind of comic and tragic at the same time situation happened in their match against Puerto Rico in the opener, where the organization, they played the wrong national anthem. They played Sudan's national anthem. Yeah, it's a totally different country, and it's not even. Yeah, they're at war with each other. So it was a really big blunder, and it's the organizations, the organizers of the Olympics, they've screwed the pooch on a couple of occasions. They have raw food, no AC units to tackle, climate change or whatever. They had
cardboard
paper beds. Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, they're really messing this up. But anyway, I'm going to go with a player prop here. There's a player who is actually a former G League Player of the Year. His name is Carlick Jones. He's by far the most talented playmaker in that squad. He had 6 assists against Puerto Rico in the opener. He had 11 assists against USA in that friendly that we just talked about on a 15, 11, and 11 triple-double. And last year in that World Cup, he had 15, 14, 6, 6, and 11 assists in 5 matches. So the only 2 matches that he didn't go over 6.5 assists were a blowout win against China and a blowout loss to Serbia. And he still had 6 assists in both matches. So not really sure what to expect of this match. There's a very good chance USA will just put the pedal to the metal and blast them by 35 or 40 points. I don't really know. But I like Carlick Jones to go over 6.5 assists at minus, minus 140 at DraftKings. This is a bit juiced up, but I think he has the potential to have double-digit assists. So if you like 10-plus assists, is at plus 380. But I'm going to keep it slow and simple here. Just take Carlick Jones over 6.5 assists, minus 140 at DraftKings. I think that's a very realistic scenario.
Yeah, and listen, I just want to say a couple of things. I totally screwed the pooch myself on the beginning of that. You know, you talk about USA, and then you were talking about soccer, and what we don't know South Sudan is a basketball country. I literally lost the plot, and we're talking about soccer while you were talking about basketball, but so be it. Let's turn our attention to soccer, and I'm going to put you on the spot. And if you don't know, you don't know. But here's the bottom line. Everybody knows what's going on with the Canadian female team. They got caught taping the New Zealand practice with a drone. I'm not going to say that every single team in the world does it, but Canada definitely got caught. And they lost 6 points. Their coach, Bev Priestman, who will likely never coach in soccer again, and a couple of assistant coaches were released. And here they are with an absolutely dramatic victory against France, down 1-0, tied it up at the 58th minute mark, won at the 11th minute mark in injury time. And now they play Colombia tomorrow, and they are only minus 118. I think that is as good a bet as you can make. I also like Canada to win it all at plus 2,000. They are the reigning Olympic champs. They are a team that has dominated international female soccer for years. And they are a team that has rallied around each other. There are important factors when looking at making bets: situations, trends, strategies, matchups, emotions. Minus 118 for Canada tomorrow, Pavlos, seems like an outstanding bet playing this Colombia team. Any thoughts?
Well, it's good for them to beat France. France are one of the strongest European teams, at least, in women's soccer. Now against Colombia, it's the final match of the group stage. Colombia, they have 3 points. France have 3 points. Canada and New Zealand have 0 points each. So Canada need a win, and they're through. However, here's the thing: Colombia, and we have to look the other way for this one. Colombia, they need a draw to qualify. So I think there's going to be a very, very gritty match because Colombia, much like the men's team, they're very gritty. They play different type of soccer. They're down in South America. They don't really. It doesn't have to be beautiful soccer. It has to be effective soccer. And you should be sure that Colombia will start kicking left and right to keep Canada outside of their big area.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to allow a lot of shots to Canada. So maybe I would pivot to the under 2.75 goals, which is at similar odds, minus 115. Because I just don't see this as a goal fest. I think Canada will play this defensively. Colombia will surely play this defensively, because if this match starts at 1-1, right, at 0-0, right? So the longer this result stands, the closer Colombia are to qualifying. So I don't think Colombia will open up. It's Canada's match that they need to win. I think the under 2.75 goals, where it's a split line between under 2.5 and under 3 goals, I think that's an interesting way to pivot from Canada mainland, because Canada, they're also missing their entire coaching staff. I think all of them went home, so I'm not really sure who's steering the ship right now.
Yeah, no, and well said. And yeah, and also the draw is plus 250, and you're right. It's going to be one of those games where Colombia plays 10 back, and Canada just tries to find their way through. But I really, really love betting with the emotional angle in play, and all the talk coming out of the Canadian locker room. I mean, these girls are it's going to be a hell of a soccer game, and that I will miss because I'm heading up to my friend's cottage tomorrow night, but so be it. Pavlos, what do you got to promote, my friend?
I've been doing a really good job in the Leagues Cup so far. We won all 3 of our 4% best bets. We have another one going today at it's later today. I don't remember the time, but we have a nice 4% Asian spread bet for today and a 5% Asian spread bet in the Leagues Cup for tomorrow. We're 9-1 in 4 and 5% releases in the Leagues Cup dating back to last season. We made 79 units in last season's edition. 23 and 10. That's a 70% win rate across all plays. So we've been doing a really good job with this Leagues Cup competition, and we keep on pushing winners. I think it's going to be a nice 2-0 day today and tomorrow. So head over to my page. We also have a nice promo for you guys. You can use code SOC30 to get 30 days of soccer for just $129. And of course, if you go to my page at wt.bus/pl, you'll find more free plays and more promos. You can get, we have promo codes for 7 days, 30 days, 365 days, just everything. Just go to my page and you'll find everything.
And use that promo code, everyone. As good as it gets. Pavlos, thank you so much for joining us. Wow. What a show. Huge thank you to Ralph Michaels, to Jesse Schule, for Pavlos, for coming on. Dan, our producer, lots of love to Dave Koken. Rest in peace, my friend. You'll be surely missed, but never forgotten. We'll see you all tomorrow.